I don't like any of that. All of that is touching classic era. If you want to change something from what it has been for the last 20 years, you have to prove why. The why not should automatically be, because that's the way it has always been. Xaryu is a SOD shill. No, there's things I like about SOD and there's things I don't like about SOD. I've been pretty vocal about that. I'm kind of interested in what he has to say. Even if I disagree with it, I'm curious of what people think. All right, let's watch the first like a minute or two and see if he makes a good point, and if not, we'll skip.
Season of Discovery so far has been one.
So the title is Season of Discovery has problems. Let's talk about them. Once again, I've been having fun, but I'm curious, is there any actual problems here, or is it just like, you know, complaining to complain? I don't know. Let's see.
Of the best times I've had in World of Warcraft in a long time.
Okay, so he's being
Same
optimistic from the start.
But with some adjustments, really has made it into a whole new experience.
Okay.
Be that through the level cap at 25, the new content, or of course the rune system. It for sure has been an overwhelmingly positive season so far. But
wait, so he starts the video for the first 20 seconds basically saying it owns. Okay. I agree.
Without issues. And these aren't just issues that exist because we are level 25 either. In fact, I believe in most cases, these will continue to be things that we see reoccur throughout the season. I also think we have giving feedback and players' hopes and wishes to thank for Blizzard really committing to this season in the first place. So why not carry on doing that now? Let's go over the problems Season of Discovery currently has and what can possibly be done about them. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor, Aeon Classic.
All right, maybe this YouTuber is basically like SOD to some degree, but still wants to discuss some of the problems because it's clickbait and will get a lot of views. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe this guy actually doesn't hate SOD. Maybe this guy actually kind of likes SOD, but it's just like, oh yeah, let me talk about some of the issues, right? Like, we can all agree SOD isn't perfect, so let's talk about what could be better. Right? Maybe that's all it is. We're skipping the sponsor this time. Check out the sponsor Aeon if you guys want to. Code WILLADAVIA. Link in description.
Additional gifts in game, and new players will get a starter package including 7 days of membership and other in-game items. Many thanks to Aeon Classic for the sponsor today. Let's get back to WoW.
Let's get back into it.
So I want to start on the PvP side of things. It's an area of the game that's designed to cause friction between players, just not in the way that it's happening at the moment. First up, I have to talk about just how the battle for Ashenvale has worked so far this season. It has not been great, and that's if I'm being nice. Blizzard have already said they're planning on making the Stranglethorn Vale PvP experience completely different in Phase 2, and taking as many learning points as possible from the battle for Ashenvale, but I still feel as though we're getting an update every single day on how they're fixing it next. First of all, we could just stack raids on the enemy leader, and the event ended within the space of 30 seconds. Then the percentage on battle started randomly going down, so you would sit there for 20 minutes waiting for it to start. Then the bosses would bug out and either become untargetable or the game would not register them as having been defeated. This made the last boss impossible. Then the percentage progress of the battle would reset to 0 from about 50-50 because the battle on the bugged layer had finally ended.
So Blizzard did a full blue post on this. I mean, I agree with the video. Obviously bugs suck. Blizzard did a blue post on like why this was happening. It was from layers being retired mid-fight or something like that. So they're like working on fixing that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, so the bugs aren't fun. And overall, I actually also agree with the sentiment that like Ashenvale PvP isn't as good as it could be because people kind of just they kill the 3 bosses and it's over in 10 minutes. There's no like PvP. So like in the next one in Stranglethorn Vale, hopefully it's more of like capture the point, right? Like a Dominion style, domination style gameplay, instead of just PvE essentially.
Aside from that, there isn't really any PvP in this event either. People just gather up in one big death ball zerg and run from one boss to the next. Is that everything? Did I cover all the bugs so far? I mean, I do appreciate Blizzard trying to fix this up and getting it working, but man, this must be eating into so much of the development time. I wish they could focus on more class balancing and making the best content possible and runes for the next phase, not having to fix an event that might not even be relevant in 2 months, several times per day. The battle for Ashenvale did sound super cool, and maybe it can be redeemed and show what it should have been from the start, but so far it has really not been a high point of the season. And what's happened to this event is pretty much because of how predisposed people are to min-maxing and doing whatever yields the best rewards as soon as possible. For the
I mean, gamers are gonna game, right? Like people are gonna do what it takes to get the best result, right? Like if it's layer hopping to win a bunch of Battle of Ashenvales to get exalted reputation with Silverwing, that's what gamers will do. That's, you know, that's just part of it.
So for Ashenvale, it's very much a race against the enemy faction. You want to defeat all of the bosses as soon as possible to get the best reputation gains, and then people go on to use those rep gains to buy the Ashenvale mount and tons of really powerful gear. Some people have even carried on doing this to Revered so far. But speaking of PvP and min-maxing, this gets me on to my next point. Pre-mades in Battlegrounds. You know,
before, like, what he's gonna say is basically a pre-made should only fight another pre-made, and if you're not a pre-made, you shouldn't fight other pre-mades. And by the way, I also agree with that. So we're 4.5 minutes in. I actually agree with everything so far, right? Like, there's no, he hasn't said it yet, but there's no way pre-made should fight randoms. I agree with that. Like, there's no way. I play pre-mades all the time, and it's actually not fun because we win so easily. It's like, no. And then if you play without a pre-made and you queue into one, you automatically lose. So it's like a lose-lose. Yeah, pre-made shouldn't fight random people. I agree.
I made a video back during Classic going over this exact topic. I thought it was a mistake then. I have not changed my opinion.
I agree.
In short, for Warsong Gulch at the moment, you can queue up as 10 players with full consumes, a stack comp, amazing gear, and be matched against 10 randoms with whatever gear they have, who might not even have a healer between them. Vanilla was made before the time when it was super common to min-max, and it really does show sometimes. I do get the upside of pre-mades though. It's a social game, you're grouping and playing with others, that's fine, and it gets you towards your goal faster. But the overarching problem with it is just fun. If in order for you to have fun, somebody else has to not have fun, you've got a problem on your hands there. And being matched as randoms into pre-mades, it's just game over when the gates open. It's not fun at all. You get rolled in the first fight in mid, and then you get graveyard camped until they decide to cap 3 times. So why not join or make your own pre-made? That is the obvious answer. And pre-made versus pre-made is actually fun. Well, time is usually the answer. Right now we have a really casual friendly version of World of Warcraft with a level cap of 25. You'll have people who could never make the grind to 60 seeing the end game content now because things have been slowed down so much.
Cool.
And saying if you want any semi-decent PvP you need to assemble a group just is not realistic in my opinion. In fact, as we go on, I bet you'll be seeing more and more complaints over the state of pre-made versus pug. Also worth a mention that ranking has changed how it works too. The whole concept of needing to grind so high you could fix your own honor cap, bracket breaking, bracket stacking, that's all gone. In short, there is a max number of honor you can gain per week that will advance your rank, and you can only go up a certain number of ranks per week too. It's not like
I love this. I don't know if I'm just old. I'm 30 now. Maybe I'm a casual. I don't know about you guys. You can put W or L in the chat if you want. I love this. I love that, like, it's like, okay, I can, the max rank I can get this week is this. Let me just farm the required honor. I see only W's. Yeah, I love it. Maybe we're all old. Maybe we're all casual. I don't know. And then you don't down rank either. So it's just like, if you play, you can rank up. And that's about it. Like, it feels good. I don't know. I like it a lot.
Like you can go from 6 to 14 or something. They explained all of this in a blue post here. Unfortunately, I am lacking in a degree in mathematics, so as usual, the vanilla ranking system is completely mystifying. I did find an add-on, however, called Ranker, which pretty clearly displays where you are at, as well as what you need to grind to hit the next rank.
That's pretty cool.
It also has a what if mode, so you can look at your future grinds too. So to be honest, I just use the add-on instead of trying to get your head around how the maths actually works.
I should probably download that as well. That's a pretty damn cool add-on. Hell yeah.
Also, you can't drop ranks through decay anymore. But reminder, the rank cap is 3 at the moment, and we already have complaints of pre-made versus pug when you can get to rank 3 in 2 weeks with not a very large amount of effort. So this will become more noticeable as the season progresses, the level cap goes up, you can gain more ranks, and people need to grind more for those ranks. So what should change? Well, the obvious answer is splitting the queue into pre-made versus pre-made and solo versus solo. Now, honestly, I'm not sure if I like this. You see, most pre-mades are not in it for the PvP. If Blizzard removed the cape reward from rank 3, the number of pre-mades you would run into would halve overnight, if not more than that. I believe the majority of pre-mades are goal-oriented players looking to hit their objective as soon as possible, in which case pre-mading gets you the most honor, so it's the best way. But that's coming at the expense of other players' experience within Battlegrounds. In other words, pre-made versus pre-made is only for people who actually enjoy PvP, believe it or not. And I think if this existed, it would only pop at peak times. The rest of the time, it would be kinda dead. And even then, what does pre-made versus pre-made imply? What if I queue as 3 players and I get matched with another pre-made of 2 and then 5 versus a 10 stack? The 3 pre-mades that might make up my group are more organized than your usual pug, sure, but it's a...
For me, and I think this is how they do it in Wrath, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, if you pre-made it with 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 players, so a party, you still get queued into other randoms. So you could play with 2 friends and queue into other randoms, or other people in groups of 5 or less. Now, if it's a full stack of 10, you will only queue into other full stacks of 10. Right? For me, that's like the obvious answer. So if you queue with 2 or 3 people, you aren't a pre-made. You're you're queuing with a couple of friends, and you can queue into other people that are also with 2 or 3. Right? That I'm pretty sure that's how it is in Wrath, and that's. Yeah, I think that's the obvious answer. I mean, I'm definitely on board with that.
Unlikely we are as organized as the 10 players together.
Anything
I
under
think
5.
The way to do it, if they were to truly change anything, would be to limit how many players can pre-made into.
No, so if you go 9-man, it would still count as a pre-made, boys. Anything under 5. If it's more than a party, it's a pre-made. If it's a party or less, then you're good.
To a battleground. You'd probably also have to put in a randomized delay for the queue to pop, and to prefer matchmaking groups from different realms too, as there are still some creative ways to pre-made across different groups, which used to exist in Classic. And
yeah,
if you still do
what was it? There was a way, what was it called? Pre-made AV enabler? Something? AV enabler? There was like an add-on that would have a bunch of people queue at the same time, and you would be able to queue with a pre-made without being a pre-made. I remember doing this back in the day. Everyone would get in Ventrilo, and it would be like, beep, all right, everybody queue in 5, 4, 3, and it was like, yeah, it's so funny. So people would probably still get around it to some degree, but I still think that's better. I actually do think that's better. Yeah, just to clarify, parties of like 2 or 3 could only queue into other parties of like 2 or 3, not pre-mades. And for me, some of the most fun I've ever had in World of Warcraft, at least in Battlegrounds, were queuing random Battlegrounds and being behind like 1 or 2 flags and being with a bunch of randoms, but like coming together and actually winning the game. Like, you don't get that experience, those really close games, when it's just a pre-made stomping. You just never ever get a really, really, really good game. That's why when you watch me play Battlegrounds on stream, a lot of the times viewers will be like, hey, can you invite me? Let's do pre-mades. And I'm like, I actually am just gonna queue solo. Like, I'm just gonna queue by myself. Maybe I'll bring like 1 healer with me, or like 1 or 2 people, but like, it's more fun to queue solo than to queue in pre-mades. The honor is just a lot worse, so that's why it would be good for some type of change.
Your 10 versus 10 war games exist, right? I seem to remember them putting them in the game at some point. I'm not sure if they're actually in vanilla, but maybe that's an option. So what would be the downsides to splitting it in a way where you can only queue as a certain number of people? Well, you could get somebody who might as well be a bot on your team, or an actual bot for that matter, in which case I have to say welcome to random matchmaking for online games. First time. Also, it would drastically increase the time you need to rank, and it would be far less efficient than being able to fully pre-made. I know, having to actually play the game for your new purple items, what a horrible thought. It's not as though you can decay ranks anymore though, you just need to play more in the week when you decide to push. But those are my thoughts on pre-made versus solo queue. We'll see if anything changes. Next up, I have casters and rune scaling. So I touched on this in a recent video, and there were some huge buffs that went out to the likes of Shadow Priest and Boomkin as well. But after having monitored Warcraft logs for data changes, it's pretty much confirmed what I thought. If you are a caster, and you can't do the majority of your healing or damage through runes, you're just going to underperform in raids for the whole season. Things may get better after 60, but let me explain what's up here. So in vanilla, we have spell ranks. At certain levels, you go back to your trainer and buy them. For physical damage dealing classes, the increase in power on spell ranks is pretty minor. Your heroic strike or sinister strike may gain a few extra points of damage. This is because the majority of your ability scaling in many cases is tied to your your weapon's damage or your attack power. Now, physical classes can already access weapons which are far and away beyond the power curve for us being level 25. Notable examples are Verigan's Fist for Paladins from that class quest, Fathom Blade, and of course the new Epic Sword. And many physical damage dealing runes are again centered around weapon damage or attack power, so this is why physical classes are looking pretty good at the moment. But casters, however, going from one spell rank to the next can increase an ability's damage by upwards of 50% in some cases, and these level caps can put us in very awkward positions.
I have my same opinion as the last time, the last video we watched and last time I talked about this. To me, it just doesn't matter to have 100% balance as on a level 25 raid. Like, if on the 25 raid melee are a bit stronger, that, like, it just doesn't, like, I feel like that's fine. Like, it doesn't matter for me to balance it out perfectly. Maybe that's being unempathetic for players that solely play the game for Warcraft logs and PvE, because I don't care about that as much, like, transparently. Like, yeah, I've been on the website a couple times, but I don't, like, sweat over min-maxing like that. So maybe I'm just not the target audience here, which might actually be the case. Because I like I've been doing a lot more PvP stuff too, and Outworld stuff. But to me, it just seems to be a non-issue, right? Like, it's just like, okay, it's a few percent off here and there. Could casters use a buff? Sure. Maybe you even should give them a buff. I actually, since this video, Mage just got buffed too, I think, and PvE. So, like, yeah, it's just not that big of a deal to me.
For example, I believe all of Frostbolt, Lightning Bolt, and Shadow Bolt are ranks learned at level 20 at the moment, which is making specs that use those abilities very weak when compared to others. But wait, if we go to Warcraft logs, Warlock is the top performing caster. How can that be if Shadow Bolt is garbage at level 25?
Well,
the simple answer is...
Yeah.
Nobody's using Shadow Bolt. All the locks in Raid are playing Destruction, using Incinerate and Chaos Bolt for their damage. And the real key to their damage is that they are able to use these two runes almost entirely for their throughput.
Yep.
Runes are far better than any of your class abilities for two reasons. One is they cost a base mana, not a flat amount. Incinerate costs about half what Shadow Bolt does, and it does more damage. The second reason is runes are scaled to your level. You'll notice when you get a rune, you don't have to go and learn ranks. It just gets more powerful as you level up. So Warlocks are able to use two abilities with a reasonable mana cost, which are scaled to deal damage as if they were level 25. And this idea of how dependent casters are on spell ranks is very consistent. Fire mages get rank 5 of Fireball at level 24. That's nearly as good as that ability can be. As a result, they're doing pretty well. For Arcane Blast, that's a rune, so it's scaled to 25.
Yep.
And even if we go and look at healers for both Resto Druid and Priest, they are both doing amazingly. Why? Resto Druid's vast majority of healing is done through Wild Growth, and Priests have Prayer of Mending, Penance, and Circle of Healing, whereas Shaman and Paladin are stuck casting vanilla spells for the most part.
Makes sense,
and those spells are just weaker. And even when we're 16, we have all our spell ranks, runes are still just going to be better because of their mana cost. And if we go back to looking at the recently buffed Moonkin or Shadow Priest, they're still low down on damage, because even though their runes got a buff, triple damage in some cases by the way, they still have to rely on casting vanilla spells. So what is the fix to this then? Well, we could delete spell ranks and make every single spell based off of your level instead. No. That's what they did in Cataclysm, by the way. And I know that ain't about to happen.
No,
More realistic is make future runes or existing ones alter vanilla spells to bring them up a little notch in some way. Here's a few modifications I can think of that could be used to improve a whole variety of vanilla spells. Allowing damage over time effects to crit, making abilities deal more damage based off an enemy's health, direct damage spells are leaving a dot behind, straight up reducing mana costs, maybe even cast times in certain...
I don't like any of that. All of that is touching Classic Era, right? One, on the technical side of things, Blizzard already said they're not going to be making unique changes to SOD in that regard because it's very complicated, because it lives on the same code base as Classic Era and Hardcore. So, like, that's just not going to happen technically. But even if it did, I just don't like it from a... from a standpoint of just making sense, like from a logistical standpoint and a what word am I looking for? Just like for players' understanding of the game, just changing everything, uprooting what's already there just doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, I would rather keep everything how it's supposed to be in classic era, then add upon it in other ways with other spells. Philosophy, yeah, like design philosophy. Like I don't like the design philosophy, and I don't like the technical side of things. So I completely disagree here. Having said that, up to this point in the video, I've agreed with almost everything. So people were saying that this video is negative or whatever. Like, yeah, no, I actually agree with most of the things here. I disagree with this though. I think it's fine that some classes are performing a little bit better than others. Like I feel like that's just not that big of a deal, and we're only level 25.
Certain cases, and using existing runes to buff certain desired class identities. A great example that's already been done in the game was the changes to Deadly Brew for rogues. This fixed issues around poisons having charges, as well as sharing certain buff slots. Now you just put this rune on and you're good to go. You don't have to worry about poisons anymore for damage. Another example, which isn't in the game but I thought up, imagine if for Shadowbolt Volley, it also made Shadowbolt restore some of its mana cost when it crit. Either way, I think there's room for improvements on casters as a whole, because I'm just saying if warriors are doing this well at 25 already, oh boy, it's gonna be vanilla all over again by the time we're 60. Next is something you've probably seen start to take off on your server, and with such a low level cap, they're even more visible than normal. Bots. It's an unfortunate thing that
I don't know, like before we even get into the bot discussion, like going back to the warriors being number one, like if warriors aren't number one, then rogues will be, or whatever, and then everyone will just be like, oh, rogues are the best, this game sucks. And then it's like, okay, if rogues aren't number one, then warlocks will be, or whatever, and they'll be like, oh, warlocks are like, there's always going to be a number one. I don't know. For me, once again, maybe I'm not as empathetic as I should be, because I don't care about like doing like min-max sweating in classic WoW PvE, because at the end of the day the content's not that hard, you can clear it anyway. So just have fun, enjoy the raid, have fun with your friends and collect some loots, and still try to min-max for your class. Like I could still try to parse number one for mage, even if mages suck compared to warriors. Like I don't know, maybe I just don't get it, but like for me it's just not that big of a deal.
Happens to each and every MMO, that we have to deal with bots and their side effects. On Wild Growth EU, I've seen a number of bots set up, either farming low-level murlocs for pearls in the wetlands, or especially in Duskwood just doing skinning. And if you were to do a /who on your server for the stockades, you may just see a whole bunch of level 16 rogues. That's the level that they get pickpocketed, by the way, no coincidence. And you're not going to be able to pickpocket usually, because mobs in there start around level 25, so whatever they're doing is combined with some kind of abuse. Equally, the Scarlet Monastery dungeons are open, and I've found that there's often a bunch of hunters in there too, farming.
They actually locked Scarlet Monastery, Arms, and Cathedral we were in it, and they locked it out on us. There's another video on that. I don't know why.
Something or other, probably abusing some pathing bug. There isn't too much as a player base we can do about the bots inside dungeons, as whilst there is a report feature, you can only report their name, not for botting. But in the open world, bots are really not too difficult to spot. Whether they have a nonsensical name, full BOE gear, or they're just making strange movements, you should be able to see them. And do make sure you report them, that's the biggest thing we can do. And it does work. I've already had some of those mails coming through saying that a bot has been banned because of your report. Finally, I've got one or two quality of life things which I wouldn't be opposed to. It's not 2019 vanilla anymore. The literal purpose of this season is to change stuff and see what's well received and what isn't. And you can put some stuff into the game without making it into retail. And you know, I wish people would stop saying adding certain things into the game makes it into retail, because it really doesn't. These two games are so different in almost every way possible. If instead people said it makes it too different from vanilla, yeah, okay, I can get behind that, that's fair enough. Anyways, three main things for me. I don't know how possible these are, but I figured I'd just throw them out there in the video.
Okay,
Number one is
see.
instant mail, at least between characters on the same account. The biggest benefit you'll get out of this by far will be when you get one of those supply crates, you can hop over to your bank alt, buy whatever you need, send it to your main, get your main to a mailbox, fill the supply box.
I think I disagree with this one, but why, right? Like you're removing a little bit of friction so you can min-max a little harder. Do we need that? Probably not. I'm not opposed to all changes, right? I'm not opposed to all changes, but some changes it's just like, that is that necessary here?
And then carry on with your day, and it's a whole lot easier to get to a mailbox than all the way back to an auction house. And they did make the filled supply boxes non-unique too, in case you didn't know, so this seems like a bit of a no-brainer. Other big benefit.
But why not? Yeah, so people are wondering why or why not. So for me, part of what makes classic is that friction, that things take a long time to do. Like similar to why not, this is an extreme example, but why not have ground mounts at level 20 instead of 40? It's like, well, it's kind of nice having them at 40 because when you actually get there, it feels really good to move quicker since you were on foot from 1 to 40. Or why not have flying mounts? That would be even a more extreme example. It's like, okay, well, taking the flight path makes the game feel larger, even though it takes longer to get from point A to point B. And I think to some degree, having 1 hour on mail items isn't like that big of a deal. Like, you want to mail something to a guildie, there's like that bit of friction. You want to mail something to an alt, there's that bit of like, okay, it takes a little bit of time, and that's not like the end of the world. I don't know. I don't feel like crazy strong about it, but I also don't think it's necessary to change classic unless it's something that is really, really going to improve the game, or like there's a really good reason why, right? Instead of why not. It's like, yeah, I think that's how I feel.
Fits include being able to send items for professions to your main for leveling, consumes for PvPing or raiding if you're in a pinch for time, and so on. The downside is, it wasn't like that in vanilla, I suppose. That's pretty much it. The next one is 41-yard nameplates. Look, I don't know if I've missed an interview or something, but if it's not possible, can we just say it's not possible so we know? But at the moment, when you see a mob's nameplates, you're also in their aggro radius. On top of that, trying to multi-dot stuff from distance or living bomb anything.
Once again here, I'm a little split on this one. As a PvPer, the 40-yard nameplates own, right? And as a hardcore player, the 41-yard nameplates also own because you can see mobs from further. But part of what makes hardcore, I know this is a SOD video, but part of what makes hardcore like kind of difficult is in classic is that you can't see mobs nameplates until they get closer to you. And that would make hardcore like a little easier. And for SOD, like, I don't know. I've played a lot of retail and I've played a lot of classic. And for me, the 41-yard nameplates, it's like, yeah, I'm just used to closer nameplates in classic. That's just part of how classic works and operates. Once again, for me, I think the burden of proof is on the person wanting the change, right? If there's something that is the way classic always has been, you shouldn't have to prove, well, why not? And it's like, well, that's not the right question. If you want to change something from what it has been for the last 20 years, you have to prove why, right? The why not should automatically be because that's the way it has always been. So why do you want to change it? Well, to make it easier, to make it more easier to dot things, to help awareness. It's like, well, to me, those reasons don't add up. So I'll probably skip this one as well.
Like that, it's just kind of hard to see what's going on over there because the bars are not visible. Are there downsides? Yes, diehard PvPers will tell you there are downsides, such as being able to see nameplates through solid walls from far away. Yeah. That's kind of it though, I think. The final one...
Well, like, it's nice for PvP because you can see people through walls, which means you can have better awareness and make insane plays. But at the same time, it changes PvP fundamentally because you have that better awareness. Part of what Classic is those closer nameplates makes you play different. So yeah.
Which I can kind of do without for phase 1, but I think it will become noticeably better in phase 2 is dual spec. It's Season of Discovery. Your talents make up for a big chunk of your power. Mixing and matching stuff is a lot of fun, and I think it should be encouraged. Now, at the moment, we are level 25, and we really can't get that far into our talent trees. For a bunch of classes, you could pretty much randomly assign your talents, put your runes on for the spec you're playing, and you're probably about at 70 to 80% of your normal power that you would have been with proper talents because runes are OP. But by level 40, we can go all the way down our talent tree and grab that last talent. This will make talents way more impactful than they are at the moment, and I think having 2 talent trees to play around with is better than 1. And I know they reduce the gold cost for respecs, and if you didn't know about this, it's 10 silver per respec capped at 1 gold, and I can get over 1 gold from doing a single quest at 25. The issue really isn't with the cost of it, it's just having to make your way all the way back to the class trainer each time you want to change things out. And yes, I agree it's vanilla, travel is a big part of that and everything, but I want to try the new rune and talent combos out on the seasonal server, so yeah, can we change it? I mean, if you want to...
I'm kind of impartial on this one. If they added dual spec, would I enjoy it? Yeah, I probably would. If they didn't add it but kept respecs at 1 gold so I could just spam respec whenever I wanted like it is right now, And like it's literally free almost, 1 gold. You just respec whenever you want. I also don't mind that. If they did it, would I be mad? Probably not. I would probably enjoy being able to swap. But like if they don't do it, to me it doesn't seem like a massive, like it's fine with 1 gold respecs too. So I'm kind of like whatever.
Put a flat gold cost on unlocking jewel spec, maybe even a quest. That's all good too. There are other ways to do this too, maybe even more thematic ways. You could put a respec consumable profession item in the game, a potion of forgetfulness from alchemy, a prototype mind alteration device from engineering that's a helmet with a cooldown on. And I think if you're worried about class spec and identity, the runes are kind of already pushing people into one playstyle with the ability.
I honestly, out of all those ideas though, I kind of like what Blizzard did in Wrath of the Lich King, and you just offer it for a lump sum of gold. So if it's dual spec for 100 gold, it's like, is that going to be worth it? Well, it's a lot of money, but after like 100 respecs, it'll pay for itself. Okay, right? And then it's like a gold sink and a choice and a decision, and not everyone has it. Like, I don't know, I don't mind that, I guess.
Ability to respec. The most common uses I think will be a healer to swap to DPS for a certain raid boss, or vice versa, or just people wanting to PvP putting on a proper spec. But that is all I have at the moment. Feedback and just asking for stuff got us to where we are at the moment, so I thought I'd just throw in a few thoughts here today. Cool. Let me know your thoughts on the video, on the issues I've gone over here.
Blizzard's been doing good with all of these things,
Do you think we should hold tight a bit and see how things are at level 40? Drop it in the comments down below. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you on the next one very soon.
Yeah, okay, honestly, I liked this video. I agreed with almost everything. You know, a couple points I disagreed with, but I thought the video was fine. I don't think it was overly pessimistic. I think, let's see, Willie seems to really like Sod. It's just, yeah, he has some suggestions. I don't know. I'm glad we watched this video. I really am glad we watched it.